Since the beginning of invasion, Russian Air Force has been losing about 1 to 2 fighters per day. The most recent Russian fighter, Su-35, was shot down only 6 hours ago, near Izium. In this video you can see it burning on the ground, but the pilot ejected and landed safely. He was captured. Now this is weird because a few weeks ago Ukrainians publicly announced that they won't be taking pilots as prisoners and artillerymen as prisoners, because artillerymen and pilots are responsible for most civilian deaths. Yet we have this captured Russian pilot, Lieutenant Colonel, and he's answering some questions. Ukrainian air defense systems have been more and more active, and they have also become very successful at shooting down, intercepting Russian missiles. In the past week, about 70% of Russian missiles were shot down. But unfortunately, the 30% that do hit do a lot of damage. My friends, I will really quickly thank the Patreons. Thanks to these people, this channel is possible. I will name you 10 new Patreons and I'll pronounce them as an Estonian. Patrick Karoll, Martin Strasinger, Kent Kubrud, Jan Graziano, Richard William Testeiger, Chuck Wells, A.L. White, Kaido Kuukap, I think that is an Estonian name actually, Jason Serit, Leon Soffe. Thank you to these people. If you like my videos, then the Patreon link is in the description below. If you become tier 10 or above, I'll be reading your name. Let's immediately jump to the battle map. Around Kiev, the capital city, Ukrainians have made some successful counterattacks in the past 3 days. They have pushed the Russians back about 15 miles from the direction of Brovary, pushing them away to the east of Kiev. They have retaken the settlement Makarev and pushed the Russians back around that area also. Most heavy clashes have been happening in the south and in the east. Since Russians have not been able to take anything from the northern front, they have refocused in the east. For example, the city Severodonetsk. It is the regional capital of the area, and Russians cannot claim victory over the eastern Ukrainian oblasts if they don't take that city. They cannot even sell it to their own people if they don't take that city. And they have not been able to take it, but they're trying very hard. Also, Izium, Su-35 was shot down here today. You can see that Russians have been stopped in Izium following the river of Seversky Donets. Crossing the river is a problem for Russians, as we can see. Yes, they have their pontoon bridges, but they are very easy targets. Right now is the season of heavy water. The rivers are almost everywhere overflowing in Ukraine, meaning that it doesn't matter if you have the pontoon bridges. It's so muddy around the river, you cannot drive there with any kind of vehicle. Mother Nature saves Ukraine. In the south, from Mykolaiv, Ukrainians have pushed the Russians back about 30 miles towards Kherson. In Kherson, Russians are digging in fear because they sense the immediate Ukrainian counterattack to take Kherson. Losing it would be a huge blow. Russians have already lost their ability to attack in the south, but they still have the ability to defend. They're digging in Kherson. And a dug-in enemy in the city is very hard to drive out. In Kherson, Russians also have been trying to proclaim the People's Republic of Kherson. That's the way the Russians do things. They take some areas and then they try to proclaim some republics, and then these republics later make a referendum to join Russia. This is what Luhansk wants to do right now. They recently proclaimed that they want to make a referendum to join Russia, but they cannot do that before Russians take the city Severodonetsk. Proclaiming the People's Republic of Kherson is problematic because Russians don't find any collaborators. Yes, they did find one, Pavel Slobodchikov, but this is what happened to him. In this photo you can see his car was shot to pieces. I'm assuming by Ukrainians. It sends a clear message to any Ukrainian thinking about collaborating with the Russians, and the truth is, not many want to. And for that reason, Russia has been kidnapping the mayors of captured Ukrainian towns and the city council members to make them collaborate, to make them try to proclaim some kind of people's republics. And unfortunately, Zelensky let us know yesterday that they know that some of these mayors have already been killed in captivity. Another weapon Russia is using is deportations. In the last video we mentioned deportations from Mariupol, but Russia has actually been deporting Ukrainians from all of the areas they occupy. Right now we know that up to 40,000 Ukrainians have been deported to Russia. This serves the purpose of diluting the population of Ukrainian settlements, making them weaker. What about the peace talks? The new round of peace talks is happening today in Turkey. Both delegations are physically there, Ukrainian and Russian delegations. Ukraine hasn't won the war and it's not winning the war, but Russia has already lost it. They just don't know it yet, so they don't back down. But time is working for Ukrainians. They have about 200,000 mobilized troops right now training. They have not even entered the battlefield yet. And Russia is losing soldiers daily. Let's look at the city of Mariupol. It is still holding on, but Russians have been able to capture a few more blocks. They have advanced from the west and from the east into the city, capturing about 10 to 15 blocks within the past week, which is a very slow gain. There is about 150,000 people still in Mariupol suffering because they don't have any food, water or heat. And Russians have been bearing heavy losses capturing these few streets in Mariupol. The last president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, has said that freeing Mariupol would take about 100 tanks and 400 infantry fighting vehicles. And Zelensky has asked the West to supply offensive weapons, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles and planes. This is what is necessary for a large-scale counterattack. But unfortunately, so far, NATO and the West are not giving any offensive weapons. The Russian Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, was missing for 11 days. He recently reappeared on camera having this meeting of Russian weapon budget with generals. And you can see the mood in that room. Looking at the faces of these generals, you can see how the war is going for them. And also for the reason he was missing, well, Sergei Beseda, the head of FSB, is prisoned by Putin because he is responsible for the failures directly in the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And Sergei Shoigu is definitely also responsible. So Putin is now attacking his closest allies, without whom he cannot survive. So one could say there is infighting already happening. Right now the Estonian parliament is discussing the ban of all Russian war symbols like Z and O and all of that stuff. And that's not only Estonia that wants to ban them, actually it's almost all of the EU member states. Let's talk about Russian losses. According to Ukraine, there's about 15 to 16,000 KIA on the Russian side and up to 40,000 wounded. I have no problem believing these numbers, knowing how the Russian army works. Up to a third of the entire Russian invading force has been knocked out of the battle. And we have been seeing that Russia has lost its ability to attack. Yes, they do have the ability to defend, and it's really hard to drive them away from the occupied territories because they have started to dig in. Also, look at these photos. Russia supposedly is supposed to have thousands of infantry fighting vehicles, and yet they're using trucks. I understand if Ukraine is using them because they don't have enough infantry fighting vehicles. This truck is worse in any way than a BTR, and still Russia is using these. Why? There are unfortunately bad news from the unity of the West. Hungary has forbidden to use its airspace for weapons delivery to Ukraine. Here is a flight path of a Turkish AN-124 transport plane, probably transporting Bayraktars or spare parts to Ukraine, and as you can see, it has to bypass Hungary. Hungarian government has unfortunately been surprisingly pro-Russian recently, which is a huge blow to the Western unity. A few videos ago we saw what a tank mine does to a tank. Well, here is a video what a tank mine does to an infantry fighting vehicle. It obliterates the hell out of it. And I will end this with good news from the United Kingdom. They have decided to send Starstreak anti-aircraft missile system. These are one of the fastest anti-aircraft missiles in the world and also one of the newest ones. They can be shoulder fired. They have this weird 3 darts warhead. Now these 3 darts will detach from the thruster and fly towards the aircraft and destroy it. And we've yet to see how effective are they. Stinger has been very effective. Then I have no doubt they will bring down the Russian aircraft. My friends, this is it right now. I'll keep you posted. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel and become a Patreon. Until my next video, Slava Ukraini.